An army was buried beneath China. But the most unsettling thing about it is not its size. It is the faces. Thousands of soldiers stand in silence near the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China. They do not breathe. They do not move. They do not speak. And yet, when you stand before them, it is difficult to escape the feeling that they are watching. One face is narrow and severe. Another is broad and calm. One soldier has a heavy brow. Another seems almost thoughtful. Some wear caps. Some wear armor. Some kneel like archers. Some stand like officers waiting for command. From a distance, they look like an army. But up close, they begin to feel like individuals. And that is the mystery. Why would an emperor bury thousands of clay warriors beneath the earth and give so many of them different faces? The Terracotta Army was not created as decoration. It was not placed underground as a simple tribute. It was built as a military force for the afterlife. A silent army of clay bodies, horses, chariots, weapons, ranks, officers, archers, and command. It guarded not only a tomb, but an idea. The idea that imperial power did not end with death. The man behind that idea was Qin Shi Huang. He was the ruler who unified warring states into one empire. He imposed law, order, roads, measurements, weights, writing systems, walls, bureaucracy, and command. In life, he shaped China through control. In death, he prepared a world where that control could continue. His tomb complex was not imagined as a grave. It was imagined as a universe, an underground empire, a hidden court, a military order sealed beneath the land near Mount Lee. And around that unseen world, artisans built an army meant to stand forever. The scale is almost impossible to absorb. Across the site, estimates often speak of thousands of life-sized figures, roughly 6,000 to 8,000 warriors, along with horses, chariots, officers, and specialized formations. But numbers alone cannot explain why the discovery feels so powerful. 1,000 statues may impress the mind, but one face can disturb the imagination. Because the Terracotta Army does not feel like a repeated object. It feels like a crowd frozen in command, a crowd waiting for an emperor who never returned. When archaeologists uncovered the pits near Xi'an, they were not just finding sculpture. They were uncovering a system. Rows of warriors stood in ordered formations. Earthen partitions divided the space. Figures were arranged by military function. Infantry appeared in disciplined ranks. Archers were placed in specialized positions. Officers stood differently from common soldiers. Horses and chariot traces suggested mobility and hierarchy. This was not random burial art. It was an underground battlefield without combat, a military machine remade in clay. Every figure belonged to a formation. Every formation belonged to a strategy. And every strategy pointed back toward the emperor's obsession with order. But then comes the contradiction. The army is standardized, and yet it is not anonymous. Many figures appear to have been made from separate parts. Legs, torsos, arms, hands, heads. These could be shaped separately, joined together, adjusted, and refined. It was a production system, but it was not soulless. Standardization gave the Qin state scale. Hand finishing gave the army presence. That combination is what makes the Terracotta Army feel strangely modern and ancient at the same time. It is mass production with human detail. A factory of eternity built more than 2,000 years ago. In the workshops, clay was not simply molded and forgotten. It was processed, shaped, assembled, dried, fired, repaired, painted, equipped, and positioned. Some parts repeated. Some body forms were similar. But then artisans added variation. A mustache, a hairstyle, a cap, a folded sleeve, a different brow, a different jaw, a different posture, a different expression. One soldier seems alert. Another seems calm. Another appears stern. Another almost seems tired. The differences are subtle, but they matter. They break the pattern. They turn imperial order into something that feels alive. This was not a modern idea of portraiture in the way we might understand it today. The warriors may not be exact portraits of real soldiers, but they were created with enough variation to suggest reality. The Qin did not need an army of identical dolls. They needed an army that looked convincing, an army that looked ranked, an army that looked disciplined, an army that looked ready, and perhaps, most importantly, an army that looked present. Presence is what transforms clay into a guard. Presence is what makes a viewer slow down. Presence is what makes a buried object feel less like an artifact and more like a witness. Look at the faces long enough, and the question changes. You stop asking how many there are. You begin asking who made them. Because behind every face was a human hand. Somewhere, an artisan pressed wet clay into shape. Someone carved lines into hair. Someone formed a mouth. Someone shaped armor plates. Someone refined the eyes. Someone decided where individuality would enter the system. The emperor wanted eternity, but artisans gave that eternity a face. And those faces are still speaking. The army also reveals hierarchy. A general does not look like a common foot soldier. An officer does not stand like an archer. A kneeling archer is shaped for readiness. A standing warrior is shaped for formation. Some figures are taller, more imposing, more elaborately dressed. Rank became visible through the body. Military order was not only arranged in space. It was sculpted into height, clothing, posture, and detail. This mattered because the Terracotta Army was not merely symbolic. It was designed as command made physical. The emperor's power could be read in every row. Every soldier had a position. Every position had a purpose. Every purpose belonged to the imperial world beneath the earth. And that world was meant to continue beyond death. Qin Shi Huang had spent his life turning fractured territories into a unified empire. His burial complex extended that logic underground. If he had armies in life, he would have armies in death. If he had officials in life, he would have order in death. If he commanded roads, walls, laws, and labor in life, then even the afterlife would be organized around imperial command. The tomb was not an ending. It was a transfer of power into another realm. That is why the army stands facing outward, not as decoration, not as memory, but as protection. The soldiers guard something we still have not fully seen. The central tomb of Qin Shi Huang remains largely unexcavated. That fact makes the Terracotta Army even more mysterious. The warriors are the visible edge of a hidden world. They stand between what has been discovered and what remains sealed. Ancient texts describe wonders inside the emperor's burial complex, including extraordinary landscapes and dangerous substances. But historians and archaeologists treat those accounts carefully. The tomb has survived for more than 2,000 years. Excavating it without the right technology could destroy what it was meant to reveal. So the greatest mystery remains protected by caution. The army waits outside it, silent, ordered, unmoving, as if still guarding a door that modern archaeology is not yet ready to open. But the army we see today is not exactly the army the Qin intended. Today, the figures appear mostly in muted clay tones: brown, gray, earth, dust. But when they were first made, many of them were painted. They were not meant to look like bare terracotta. They carried color, armor patterns, facial details, clothing tones, pigments that once made the figures brighter, sharper, and more lifelike. Much of that color vanished after burial and excavation. Time, air, moisture, and exposure took away what once made the warriors even more startling. So the Terracotta Army we see now is quieter than the one the emperor buried. It is a ghost of its original appearance. The clay soldiers were once more vivid, more immediate, perhaps more human. Imagine the pit not as rows of brown figures, but as a painted army beneath the earth. Faces with color, armor with contrast, weapons in hand, ranks arranged in perfect order. A military world sealed in darkness. The effect must have been overwhelming, and the illusion was completed by real weapons. The warriors were not empty symbols holding imaginary arms. Bronze weapons were found at the site: blades, spearheads, arrowheads, crossbow parts, and other military objects. These weapons turned clay soldiers into an armed formation. The army was silent, but it was prepared. Archers were not simply sculpted to look elegant. They were placed in tactical roles. Infantry did not stand randomly. They filled military space. Command figures did not merely decorate the pit. They structured the army. This was a funerary world shaped like a functioning military system. The line between ritual and reality becomes difficult to separate. Were these warriors meant to protect the emperor spiritually, politically, symbolically, militarily? Perhaps the answer is all of these at once. Because Qin Shi Huang's empire was built on the belief that order could conquer chaos. The Terracotta Army brought that belief into death. Behind the army was a production network almost as impressive as the figures themselves. Clay had to be dug from the earth. It had to be processed. It had to be shaped into body parts. It had to be dried and fired. It had to survive transport. It had to be assembled. It had to be finished. It had to be painted. It had to be equipped. It had to be placed into formation underground. This was not the work of one artist. It was the work of an imperial system. Workshops likely specialized in different tasks. Some workers shaped bodies. Others refined heads. Others handled armor details. Others prepared firing. Others painted. Others transported. Others placed the figures. Some marks and workshop practices suggest that responsibility could be traced to makers, teams, or supervisors. In the Qin world, scale did not erase accountability. It demanded it. That is one reason the army feels so extraordinary. It is both art and administration, both ritual and production, both individuality and bureaucracy, both handmade and systematized. The Qin state could mobilize labor at a terrifying scale. But the Terracotta Army shows that this labor was not only about quantity. It was about control. The same empire that standardized weights and measures also standardized eternity. The same empire that organized roads and armies also organized the afterlife. The same ruler who wanted unity in life wanted command in death. But history has a way of turning power into evidence. Qin Shi Huang wanted the army to serve him beyond death. Instead, the army now reveals the world that created it. It reveals imperial ambition. It reveals technical skill. It reveals workshop organization. It reveals military hierarchy. It reveals artistic variation. It reveals the labor of countless people whose names are mostly lost. The emperor sought immortality, but the faces of his soldiers preserved something he may not have intended. They preserved the hands of the makers, the touch of the artisans, the decisions of people working inside an enormous imperial machine. A slight change in the mouth, a different curve of hair, a line pressed into armor, a mark in the clay, a surface smoothed by hand. These details survive because someone made them. The Terracotta Army is often described as a wonder of ancient China, and it is. But it is also something more intimate. It is a record of human labor trapped inside imperial ambition. It is the story of how thousands of workers created presents from earth, how clay became rank, how rank became order, how order became an army, how an army became a guardian for a tomb that still refuses to open. And this is why the faces matter so much. If every warrior were identical, the army would still be impressive, but it would feel different. It would feel colder, more mechanical, more distant. Instead, the differences make the silence heavier. They make the rows feel inhabited. They make the viewer feel surrounded not by objects, but by witnesses. The army is still, but the individuality creates tension. It is as if every soldier has been paused in the middle of a command that will never be completed. The kneeling archer will never release the arrow. The officer will never give the order. The chariot will never move. The infantry will never march. And yet the formation remains ready, waiting, not for a battle in our world, but for a duty imagined beyond it. The Terracotta Army stands at the boundary between history and belief, between archaeology and afterlife, between mass production and human expression, between the emperor's desire for control and the artisan's ability to create life from clay. It is an army built for a dead ruler, but it now belongs to the living world as one of the most powerful discoveries ever made. Each figure is part of a military formation. Each formation is part of an imperial tomb. Each tomb is part of a larger dream of eternity. And yet, each face pulls us back to the individual. That is the strange power of the sight. The scale overwhelms you. Then the details stop you. 1,000 soldiers become one face. One face becomes a question. Was this man imagined? Was he based on someone real? Was he a type? A rank? A memory? A hand-finished variation inside an imperial system? The answer may never be simple. And perhaps that is why the army continues to fascinate. Because it does not give us one mystery. It gives us layers. The mystery of the emperor. The mystery of the unopened tomb. The mystery of the production system. The mystery of the lost colors. The mystery of the weapons. The mystery of the workers. And above all, the mystery of the faces. More than 2,000 years have passed since these soldiers were sealed underground. The empire that created them is gone. The emperor they served is gone. The hands that shaped them are gone. But the army remains. Rows of clay bodies, thousands of eyes, endless silence, a buried force built to protect power after death. And maybe that is the deepest irony. Qin Shi Huang wanted to command eternity, but what survived most powerfully was not only his command. It was the humanity hidden inside the clay. The emperor built an army to guard his afterlife. The artisans gave that army presence. They gave it rank. They gave it discipline. They gave it faces. And those faces still do what they were made to do. They hold our attention. They guard a mystery. They make us feel that something beneath the earth is still waiting. So the question is not only why China buried an army of terracotta soldiers. The greater question is this: why did an emperor who demanded obedience need an army that looked so strangely alive?